Okay, so the next question we could probably devote a whole episode to, and it's about my favorite chapter of The Pleasure Trap. My favorite chapter isn't losing weight without losing your mind. It's not getting along without going along. It's chapter 6. And before I do that, I just want to show you the difference of the personalities between Dr. Lisle and Dr. Goldhamer. So Dr. Lisle signed my book with a little drawing, and he said, "To AJ, you are one of a kind, always a great pleasure, Doug." And Dr. Goldhamer goes, "To AJ, beware of the pleasure trap." So that's the differences. One is warm and fuzzy, and one tells you not what you want to know, but what you need to hear. So chapter 6 is called Looking for Health in All the Wrong Places, Mental Biases, Health by Subtraction. One of the things I love the most about you guys is you're willing to disagree to tell the truth. And I respect and love everyone in the plant-based space. They're always a guest on my show and welcome. But there's so many bean pushers and nut pushers that have you believe that if you don't have an ounce of nuts a day or take, a fatty acid, that liquid thing, or eat beans, you're going to drop dead. And I've heard you both say that there is no one particular food that everyone needs to eat. But in fact, most problems are caused by excesses and not deficiencies.
Absolutely true. In the world of our ancient ancestors, deficiency was the dominant fear. And we were designed to avoid deficiencies by making sure we got enough to eat and didn't get eaten. And we're really well designed. In a natural setting, we'd have a good chance of survival. But in the modern world of hyper-concentrated foods, it makes it almost inevitable to get into trouble unless you consciously override it, unless you become aware of the trap. And that's the point, is even the most, well-intentioned person can easily get sucked into the pleasure trap. It's kind of the default. The fact that anybody doesn't is kind of the surprise.
Yeah. And that is once again, this is I call it the village template. And that is that if we look whatever the problems are, and what we want to place over the top of the problem is a template from the Stone Age village. And so if we look at a Stone Age village, the vast majority of Stone Age villages throughout human history, nobody ate a single nut, not a single one. The vast majority of Stone Age villages throughout all of human history, none of them ate a single bean. Okay. So anybody that says that you need nuts or beans to be healthy is just freaking out of their mind. They don't understand anything about human evolution. It's just gross ignorance. Of course, that's not true. Okay. So human beings have the widest palate of any animal on earth. There's a reason that's true, and that is that they are the widest ranging land animal on earth. Isn't that interesting? Those two facts are not coincidental. So human beings had to, if they're going to continue to forage into new habitats, which they did after leaving Africa and then moving up through Asia and then down to Australia and then across the Bering Strait and then down into the Americas. It's not like they traveled this. People were moving 5 miles a generation, for God's sakes. They're just moving down the river a little bit and then moving another down the river a little bit. So little by little by little, they moved into virgin territories. And they did that because they were having competition for food at the previous territories that were saturated with humans. That's the only reason you'd ever leave Africa. And so as a result of that, you had to be able to withstand slight differentiations in foodstuffs little by little by little. And at the end of the day, we wind up with a species that is an omnivore with an extraordinarily wide palate. That doesn't mean that you can eat everything. If you ate the diet of a chimpanzee, you would die. You would be poisoned to death by eating that. Okay, that's not a template for you to swallow. But the village template says, when we have a problem, let's lay over what our Stone Age ancestry, what they did. Okay. And the answer is they ate a variety of plant foods with some animal food. It was all unprocessed. It was all whole natural. It was all organic. But there wasn't any one food in it that the integrity of the physical system was dependent upon. It's absolutely, totally absurd. And as Colin has pointed out in numerous books, but particularly the last two, Whole, I think, makes this argument better than anything, is he points out the extraordinary capabilities of the body to recirculate and reuse food in the instance where you're particularly low in your diet in a given nutrient in a given habitat, that the system is perfectly well of accommodating that. Of course it is. Okay. So yeah, we looking for health in all the wrong places was an important statement to make, and basically say, listen, it's not from adding a bunch of anything that is going to solve your problem. It's almost always going to be the case that the pathological condition that you're suffering from is an imbalance caused by an excess, not by a deficiency. That is not 100% true of the time, but it is 99% true of the time. The other time, that's why we have Alan Goldhamer and Peter Sultana and True North Health Center and experts like that can look at that and say, whoa, that's a funny looking blood panel. We ought to consider the possibility of a deficiency, okay? But that is the exception, it is not the rule.
Yeah, and even most deficiencies, when they do exist, are the result and the consequence of their dietary excesses. You can create deficiencies with excess. So even though you might get some clinical benefit from supplementing something that corrects the deficiency, ultimately the problem was usually excess.
Got it.
But just the fact we can take patients for 40 days on water only.
No.
And not only do they not succumb, they actually thrive. And it's clearly the efficiency of recycling. In fact, you can live longer on water only than you can on some isolated nutrition. Because if you just say eat white bread, you'll get deficiencies. The dietary excess will create deficiencies faster than living on water only.